Collision last night had a main event for the AEW Trios titles. It was the House of Black defending against CM Punk and FTR. And it was a very good match. I enjoyed it. Again, it continued the pattern of very strong Collision main events, although I thought the show overall was maybe one of the weaker Collisions that they have done so far. And even a weak Collision is still a good show. But they've had better. So you had this great main event, and you had Samoa Joe earlier in the show, very upset that CM Punk still has not, responded to his challenge to a match at Wembley Stadium, and Joe made short work of his opponent. And he came back out. It was predictable, but he came back out at the very end of the match in the crowd. The camera didn't even get it at first. Him grabbing Punk, who was up against the barricade, and dragging him into the crowd and putting him out with the coquina clutch. So you have that and stuff with Ricky Starks and Christian Cage, and there were a bunch of things going on this show that people should have been talking about this morning. But they're not talking about that. And the reason they're not talking about that online is because they're talking about more CM Punk drama. That may or may not be a work, but they're talking about CM Punk. When the match was over, CM Punk and FTR, they spoke to the crowd in Greensboro, cut a promo, and I'm going to read to you here what Punk said. Punk addressed the crowd, and this is what he said. He said, "Hello, North Carolina. What is this, huh? What is this? Look at this. Carolina is Hangman country." He's pointing out a sign in the crowd. "Earlier today, I went to a local supermarket and I figured out why they call him Hangman. It's because the pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures because nobody wants to buy them. He's a peg warmer. Unlike me, who moves merchandise and pops ratings and sells toys. We got everybody in AEW saying, 'I'm the heart, I'm the soul, I'm the spirit.' Well, that's objective. What is a fact is the people who say that certainly aren't the chin of AEW because the lights go out faster than what? GTS, go to sleep. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I got rocked also. I told the House of Black no chops, and they chopped me, so I'm very mad." That last part was just him having some fun and joking around. Because there were some people who only read and didn't actually watch the video, and they just read what he said. "Oh, he's shooting on the House of Black." Like, no, he's not. Just shut the fuck up. So those are the comments that he made. Right? He brought up Hangman Adam Page. First of all, let me just say this. I don't know what ratings he's popping exactly. That may not have been the best flex on his part. But anyway, so he talked about Hangman Page. We have not heard Punk directly address any of the members of the Elite since he came back. He kind of danced around it in his first promo back, and he clearly took some shots at the Bucks, but he never actually named them. So this is the first time where he's naming one of them. And they had multiple signs in the crowd because they were in Hangman country. And so there was one sign that said Carolina is Hangman country. There was another sign that got on TV that said Hangman was right, which I laughed at. And there may have been more, but those were the two that were the most visible and at least made it on TV. And I know Punk saw them clearly. Now, the Elite, they just signed new contracts with the company. I just talked about this last week. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, they all just signed new multi-year deals that are going to keep them in AEW for many years to come. And that includes Hangman. So it would seem unwise to have CM Punk go out there if this wasn't planned and basically start taking shots at Hangman Page when that whole situation, it had kind of died down. They're trying to move past this whole thing. There's a great vibe that they have on Collision every Saturday night. Punk is working with all these different people. Doesn't this guy, by the way, have enough angles going on simultaneously? Right? He's had angles with Ricky Starks. He's got one right now with Samoa Joe that's going to lead to Wembley. He still has unfinished business with Bullet Club Gold. He's walking around calling himself the real world's champion, calling out MJF. I think he's got enough irons in the fire right now. Now he's going to add Hangman to that list. I watched the video, and I look at this whole situation, and I say to myself, is this guy really that fucking stupid? It can't possibly be this tone deaf. You've got a good thing going on this show, right? Collision, everybody, there's a lot of people who think Collision is the A show. I would agree. I think Collision is generally better than Dynamite. It's the show, and I don't hate Dynamite, but I enjoy Collision every single week. Even this week, it was a weaker show. It was still very good. So he's getting to work with all these different people. Pretty much anybody he wants to work with, Even right down to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat last week, bringing him in. Right? Punk had history with him from the Ring of Honor days. Now he's going to get to work with Joe at Wembley. He's got the run of the place. He's tagging with FTR, his buddies. Why would you go and say something like that if it was not part of the plan? It felt to me like the setup for a match. And I was not one of these people talking about the Punk stuff when he first came back, who was on the train of, well, it's all a work, and clearly Punk's going to come back. You got Wembley coming up. You're going to do Punk against Omega, or you're going to do Punk and FTR against Omega and the Bucks. Tony Khan would be out of his mind not to do that. It's a license to print money for this company. Yeah, well, we're heading into Wembley, and obviously they're not doing that. But there is another pay-per-view coming up a week after Wembley that's kind of being neglected. In Chicago, of all places. It's called All Out. And this, to me, it felt like the setup to a match for All Out. Because you have a show, you have 2 pay-per-views coming up. You have a show in Chicago after the Wembley one that really it's almost an afterthought. And you're having back-to-back pay-per-views. Apparently they're not offering a bundle for people who might want to purchase a bundle to get both shows. So you're expecting your fans are going to pay $50 for All In, and a week later they're going to pay another $50 at least for All Out. Some people will. There's going to be a lot of people who won't, or who can't afford to do that. But all of a sudden, if out of your ass you pulled CM Punk against the Elite, or one of the members of the Elite, and you made that one of your main events for that show, well, that's a pretty big attraction. That might get people's attention. Because if this is not the setup for a match... First of all, I will say this. Tony Khan, you get what you pay for. If CM Punk went and did that because he got, he got his emotions, his feathers ruffled by some signs in the crowd, or he feels like some of the boos he's been getting are because of the Elite, and so he saw the signs and said, fuck it, I'm going to go off on Hangman. I have no sympathy for Tony Khan. Tony Khan knew what he was getting into when he brought this guy back to the company. There is a lot of positive that Punk can bring to the table. But there's also a heaping fucking bag of negative as well. And so, if that's what happened here, then Tony Khan, you get what you pay for. But if this Punk stuff is setting up Punk and Hangman for All Out, or CM Punk and FTR against Hangman and the Young Bucks, like I said, that would be one way to get people to buy that pay-per-view for sure, coming 1 week after the Wembley show. That may just be wishful thinking, though, because I just can't wrap my head around the idea that he did that without there being some kind of plan in place to do a match. Why the fuck would you bring this up again? Like I said, people are trying to put that behind them. You got a good thing going right now. You're feuding with 5 or 6 fucking people at the same time. You have a match to promote with Samoa Joe for Wembley Stadium. And you go out there and make a comment that I'm sure he knew was going to spread like wildfire on social media, even though it didn't air on TV. He's not a stupid guy. He knows this. And it's all I've seen anybody talking about since late last night. They're not even talking about anything that happened on the show. They're talking about Punk calling out Hangman. Here we go again. I saw that screenshot from one of the Grand Theft Auto games of the guy as he watches the car drive away. Oh, shit, here we go again. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? So, just for common sense sake, I have to think that this is all part of a work and a setup to an eventual Punk and Hangman match. That they've agreed to work together again, and whether it's All Out or maybe Full Gear or some other show, we're going to get a Punk match and a Hangman match. But there's been no indication or tease or anything on television. This would be an angle they shot that they knew would spread on social media and would appeal to that audience, because nothing has even been teased in that direction on television. And to call out Hangman of all people, if he really did just call him out, Hangman has been a non-factor for a while now. He's still over, when they hit his music and he comes out, the people still cheer for him. He was in Blood and Guts, but he's really not been doing much of anything. He's been a non-factor now for months. I don't know if he's been hurt or they just don't have anything for him. Maybe it had to do with the contract situation. Now that he's re-signed, Tony Khan's going to kind of get him back into the rotation. Whatever it is, for his sake, I certainly hope that was something that he cleared in advance and they have some kind of battle plan here. And then it makes sense, because I do think there'll be a lot of interest in seeing that match. But if not, holy fucking shit. Not surprised, not at all surprised, and neither should Tony Khan be surprised. But again, here we go again with the drama and the bullshit. It's unbelievable.